Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. On this episode, we're going to be analysing an area of Aston Villa's game that I think can massively be improved on, and that is set pieces. We're going to talk about the high line. We're going to talk about set pieces. We're going to talk about attacking, defending, but we're also going to talk about how we are setting up from those set pieces as well. We've got images from the different areas in which we've been conceding goals from set pieces. We're going to look statistically at the four teams that we're going to be analysing and we're going to be looking at and comparing Aston Villa against. That is Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Aston Villa. As you know, that I'm not looking anywhere below the top four because as Sky and as all these top pundits do, top four is the only thing that matters. So before we get into it, I want to just talk about the importance of percentages. Now, when we're talking about championship winning sides, when we're talking about challenging, when we're talking about the elite teams, yes, they all do things very, very well. But when you start adding small percentages together to gain success and gain an advantage, those are the things that really, really matter. So I want to talk to you first about how Unai looks at small details. So early on in the season, when he was in the Europa Conference League, he did a great interview looking at how his Aston Villa side sets up. And they went to this moment and this image. Now, the presenter was talking about how Aston Villa's line is really, really high just after the halfway line. But we also defend with a high line. And this is the image that the presenter showed Unai Emery. And Unai Emery spoke about how we'd made a mistake. And we haven't conceded from here as of yet. It's a ball that's on that far touchline. But Unai's noticed where the mistake is. And Unai spoke about how Pau Torres is the first defender that the rest of the team looks at to keep their line. So we've made a mistake here because the rest of the team aren't in line with Pau Torres. And I just wanted to highlight the small, fine detail, that fine margin behind Villa doing it well and not doing it well. And we've seen this season when we've had some VAR calls that have, they've scored and it's gone to VAR and the opposition have scored and we may have Matty Cash's leg over the line. And this is all showing that what he wants from his defenders. He wants Konsa to be in line with Pau. He wants Cash to be in line with Konsa and Pau. And then John McGinn will be in line with Cash. So the reference point is the defender that's next to Pau Torres to make sure that that line is straight. And I wanted to just talk about that importance of the high line and how well that we've been able to do it and how ingrained in our minds that high line is. It's been schooled into us now. It must just be a sort of a phase in our game that we just do based on second nature. There's no real massive decision making because it's just ingrained and instilled in the way that we go about using our high line. Now, set pieces this season we've had two different variations. We've had attacking set pieces and we've had defending set pieces. And when I talk about the fine line between how do we get better and defending the set pieces, for me, is an area that we can massively improve on going into the 24-25 season. So if I show you a graphic now of our goals from set pieces, and we'll look at the comparison between Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Aston Villa. So Man City's goals from set pieces, they've got 16, which is a good number. Arsenal are leading the way from goals from set pieces with 20. Liverpool have got 14 and Aston Villa have got 14. So attacking wise, our numbers aren't that far away from Manchester City's and we're only 6 away from Arsenal. Now, 6 is a big number really when you're talking about goals, But in that sense, what I've noticed this season is that we've been really creative. We've had opportunities that have looked amazing. You know, that little corner that we do where the player's on the touch line and then we roll it and then we knock it back. We've been really creative, really expressive. We've been doing free kicks where one goes to take it, then the other comes back and takes it. So in that sense, I've actually liked our set pieces. So I've not really got a problem with the creative element of it. I do feel like our defenders should be getting more goals from set pieces. I think we should attack corners a lot more. I think if you look at our goals from centre-backs, you know, we remember the Pau Torres header at Spurs, unbelievable header. But apart from that, how many goals is Konsa getting? So that is an area for me that I think centre-backs should be getting more goals from. If we go and have a look now at the area that I am not concerned about, but it's an area that I really want us to hone in on the summer. So we're talking about the top four here now. And we're talking about how Aston Villa can look up, not down. How do we stay where we are? How do we improve? Fine margins. We know that Unai will look at a still image of how we're defending and he'll pick it apart. And I think this area for me massively needs to improve. So Manchester City have conceded 2 goals this season from set pieces. Arsenal have conceded 6 goals from set pieces. Liverpool have conceded 10. And Aston Villa have conceded 16 goals from set pieces. Now, I look at set piece defending and I think sometimes there may be nothing that you can do. You know, it might be a bullet header. It might be a bit of a given chaotic mess. But generally, how you set up from a set piece, you have opportunities to stop the ball going in the back of the net. Now, a set piece, we don't know what that opposition team are going to do, but our basic general shape can help stop the balls going in the back of the net. So we're going to go through a different variation of images of goals that we've conceded this season, and I'm going to show you the pattern of some of those goals. I think there's 3. I think there's 3 different types of set-piece goals that we've conceded, and I'm going to show you in the images. Now, we're going to go to the tactical pad first, and what I'm going to show you is a basic general Aston Villa setup on how we approach defending set pieces. Aston Villa go with half zonal and half man for man. Now, what that generally means in layman's terms is the zonal defenders are protecting space. So the zonal is space. So zonal, we're marking specific areas. If that ball goes into your area, you deal with it, you defend it. The man-for-man approach is where we pick up the opposition players that are going to be in the box, and their job is to stop that player from getting the ball, and you get to that ball first. Now, what happens is opposition teams will set little traps. They will make a player block another player, which will then free up space for another player to attack. So Aston Villa set up, and this is how we generally look at the zonal side of things, and that's why I've highlighted it. One thing that I'm going to mention, which I mentioned on the tactical episode we did the other day, was the impact of not having Tyrone Mings. Ollie Watkins is generally first port of call. Tyrone Mings was the second, and those were both zonal and would get their head on a lot of stuff. Now, without Tyrone Mings, this is where I think we've had a little problem, and not generally just because of the defending, but because of the vocal nature of Tyrone Mings. And this is what you're about to see as this unfolds. So we're going to go back now to an image, and this image is against Newcastle. And what you'll be able to see from this image is how we set up from a set piece. So we've got zonal, we've got the 3, we've got Longley, zonal. So Longley's here actually. So Longley, Watkins, and Moreno. They're marking the front post and they're zonal. Everybody else is picking up a man. Okay, so we've got a Newcastle player in here who's free. We're kind of okay with that because we've got our zonals, but he could float around and go wherever, which could possibly become a problem. Where I think we miss Tyrone Mings is an area of leadership, of saying, are we set here now? Are we set okay? And where's the problem? Now, if I'm going to look at this instance here, and this is where they score from, by the way, is here we have a bit of a problem because we know that everybody's gone man for man. We know we've got our zonal, but who's picking up this spare player here? This player here now could go anywhere. He could go here. He could move around wherever he wants. But we're not set here because this player, it could cause chaos and they concede from this goal. What we did in this game as well is if you look at the general numbers of how many players we've got back, we've got 9 players in the box, which leaves 2 players upfield. Problem with leaving 2 players upfield is that you leave space and gaps in the box. Generally, why you have 11 players that are in this box is because if you have another player here and here, there's less space for the opposition to attack. So that's why generally you will always leave everybody back and not leave anybody forward, and it's the space. So Shah scores from this incident. Right, now, here we're going to have a look at patterns of goals that we've conceded from set pieces, which haven't been addressed, that need to be addressed. So, number 1 is the player that has been occupying space outside the edge of the box. This one, I think we were a bit unlucky with because Gordon shoots, it hits a Villa player, it hits the bar, and of course it lands at Shah's foot and he scores. But the emergence of what happened early on in the season has been a bit of a problem. Aston Villa have been reluctant to pick up this player on the edge of the box. Now, if you're giving great opposition players the opportunity to shoot, then you're going to have problems because we know that in the Premier League that these balls will fly into the back of the net. So against Liverpool, Szoboszlai, against Spurs, Lo Celso, you know, we're not learning our lessons, were we? And this was one that really was starting to get on my nerves at the start of the season because we'd already had the warning signs from Szoboszlai and the pattern emerged that we'd got Lo Celso practically scoring the same goal. So I think that's an area that we massively need to look at and not allow players to be at the edge of the box just shooting on our goal. The next one is one that also was a little bit of a problem as well. And it was the one where the ball would go into this area and the attacker would head it back across goal and it would find another opposition player. And we saw that with Harry Maguire knocking it back and finding Højlund. So that one was a little bit of a problem. We'd also had the same goal conceded against Luton. The ball was into that area and it was knocked back and it was put in the back of the net through there as well. So that's another area of which I felt like we really need to make sure that that contact is okay. But we also need to make sure that the players that are in the zonal areas and the zonal zones are making sure that on that next part of contact, so if it's gone to that back post, because we've got zonals, they then need to turn their attention and pick up players. And, you know, I really do feel like in the summer, the area of leadership on set pieces, that vocal nature really needs to be looked at. So I do feel like there will be another centre-half coming in at Aston Villa. And I do feel like maybe the profile of centre-half that comes in is going to be somebody of a robust, attacking, aggressive nature to just head that ball away. So the next area of concern for me this season has been our ability to not pick up our players. Now, this one was against Liverpool. And, you know, I played a bit of football and I was always told to get goal side. And this has happened time and time again this season, is that we've not been goal side and we've not looked across the line and we've not picked out the player that needs to be marked. Yes, at this instance, we did hold quite a high-ish line, but still, to allow a player to have a free header, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal to allow a player to have this space. And it was a great header, but we've got to deal with these scenarios a lot better. And finally, this isn't a set piece, but it happened time and time again this season where we were completely outnumbered. And this was the game against Brentford where we've not looked across the line, we've not spoken, we've not realised how many players are in a certain area, and we've just been completely done here. With an overload, and we've got players that are just queuing up, and we are in no man's land in these areas. So I think set pieces, defending wise, is an area that we can really work on and really improve and really limit the amount of goals that we are conceding from set pieces. So this is a bit of a follow-on to that big tactical episode that I did last week. And I really wanted to highlight an area that we can massively improve on and we can work hand in hand and it can improve, because I think although on that episode I was very, very positive, I showed a lot of real good things that Aston Villa are doing, I do feel like this area, especially the defending side of things, can improve. And I think the one area of it is being more vocal. Having someone that's in there, that's making sure that we're picking up the players, we set before that one goes in there. So, yeah, I've gone with McPhee on the thumbnail. And there's different rumours, isn't there, of like who is on the defensive side of set pieces. Is it McPhee? It's not McPhee. But generally, you will see McPhee standing up on every single set piece, whether we're attacking or defending. So, yeah, I think set piece is an area that everybody wants to sort of dominate now. We've seen that Arsenal, with their set piece coach, has been praised massively. Gary Neville absolutely loves him, and he mentions him about 600 times a game of how well they're doing. You know, a lot of stubbornness from Postecoglou. You know, him saying that he doesn't need a set piece coach, but I guarantee you he'll get a set piece coach in the summer because it's so important now. And yeah, I do think a reason why we might not have been so good is that our defence has changed quite a lot this season, but we can't make excuses. The numbers are telling us here that we're not great at defending set pieces. And like I mentioned at the very, very start of this episode, little 5% here and there, those little advantages that you can get are the difference between staying in the top four, maintaining it. You know, if we probably conceded 6 less goals this season from set pieces, you might be talking about 7 or 8 points, which then puts us not far behind Liverpool in third. So I really wanted to highlight this, and I wanted to show you the different patterns, the different areas, how we go about set pieces, what we have to be looking out for. And yeah, that's all my tactical content done now for the season. I've done that big tactical one, which I'm pretty proud of, to be fair, because, you know, I've tried to speak about tactics all season. It's a really good one. I managed to do it all without all my content don't take no editing, because I just do the minute I press record to the minute it's done, that's what you're getting. So there's no editing whatsoever. So that big whopper for 40 minutes was pretty good, to be fair. This one has highlighted what we do, how we do it, why we do it, where we're going wrong, the images. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, just make sure you're smashing a like on every single episode that we do. Comment your thoughts and subscribe. So set pieces. I do not want to be talking about set pieces next season. I want it addressed in the summer. Unai and the team. Up the Villa.